Right, here's a video on the 2008 Toyota Avensis. It's a DID diesel, and I think it's just before the changeover, but I'm going to be changing the front pads. As you can see, the pads, if you look on the sliders there, you can see how worn they are, and in there as well. It's very hard to see the actual wear limit in there, but trust me, they're right near the mark, and I'll show you when I get them out what they're like. But it wasn't actually grinding sort of metal to metal, but it was giving a weird sort of droning noise, and like a wheel bearing almost under braking. But I can only assume it was just catching there where the edge of the disc, the metal of the disc, was catching the bit of surface rust on the bottom of the disc, and where it's not worn slightly. But what we'll do is we'll just give it a quick blast first, get off any unnecessary crap that we don't need on there. Right, then what you need, this is a very simple job, easy, you can do it like any DIY mechanic can do it. You need to take off these retainers on the caliper. They're like sliders, and I'll show you where the sliders are in a minute, because you want to make sure that they move freely so they get even braking and brake pad wear. But I've taken one off at the back. It's a 13mm. You can do it with a socket or a spanner, and I'm going to see if I can open them up. I used to be able to do it years ago in the old Vauxhalls, and you could just do it by just opening the bottom bolt, and yes, lovely, it will slide up like that. So you basically just need to do the bottom nut on there, and it will actually slide and pivot on the top one. If you find that you need to take them out to clean them, then take them both out. But as I say, here's the brake pad, and yeah, it's you could say it's worn out, and say it's probably on the bottom where it was scratching on the bottom of the disc there. But I'm surprised actually there's no wear sensors on this, which is very strange. But yeah, as I say, that one's not too bad, but it's in need of changing. But the front one is definitely needed changing. So what we'll do, give that a quick spray, and on the back. And what I'll do is I'll just go around with a wide brush I've got and give it a quick clean off the top and bottom. So I'll do that. I won't bore you with the of cleaning it, like, you know, boredom clean it. But what we need to do as well is we need to close the piston back up in order to get the new pads in. But what I use is a pair of grips. You can use a G-clamp if you want to, or you can with the caliper down, not really recommended, but you can put a screwdriver in between the or a bar in between the disc and then slide it back that way. But either way, just be careful, don't say damage the disc at all. But what you need to do when you're assembling the brake pads again, and I'll come back to that in a minute, make sure you use like high temperature grease, i.e. copper grease. That's what I use. And you want to put it all over the back of the pads, not the front. It's a common myth, when brakes squeal, people assume it's the braking surface against the disc, but it's not, it's the back of the pad. And although they've got like anti-squeal pads on there, this one was squealing terribly, especially in the hot weather. So what you want to do is get copper grease, paint it on with a brush all over the back of the disc pad, the new one that is, and also in the sliders in there. Don't contaminate the brake pad surface at all with the grease, or get it on the disc pad. If you do, brake cleaner is only about £3 for a tin, so it's worth investing in the tin, and it keeps everything cleaner. But say if you do get any on there, spray it. And if you put new discs on, you need to spray it with this anyway, because it comes like a protective film so it doesn't rust. But just spray it and wipe off with a tissue. So I'm going to put the new pads in a minute. I'm going to put copper grease all around these sliding areas, and on there, and on the back as well, and on the back of the piston. But as I say, just make sure all your sliders are there and they're moving freely, and the top as well is moving freely, because that's going to affect your braking, whether it pulls to one side or just wears unevenly. So I'll come back to you in a minute when I grease the pads up and ready to reassemble. Right, here's a little tip for you. When you're getting the pads, always make sure Okay, they got a seal on the box, which obviously you've got to open, but when you got the pads, just put the old pads up against the new ones, just to make sure, before you open the packet if you can, just to make sure that they're the right size. Obviously they do vary, and this one I think is on the cusp of the change of like a facelift model, so it's like to 2008 and 2009 they're different. So also lay them out, so obviously these two ones are different. On the back there they've got like a spring, like a retaining spring clip on the back, and that's for the back bit, the disc, and that hasn't got it. So just lay them out so you know where they are. As I say, there's the rear one, which will go like that, and that's the front one there. So I'm going to place that in, and that just slides in like so. Then what I'm going to do then is I'm going to get my copper grease. I'm going to paint all around this like anti-squeal plate on there. I'm going to do the same on the rear, and then as I say, I've coated the piston and anti-squeal plate on the caliper on there. So this is a sliding caliper, single piston. So I've painted that with copper grease. I'm going to do the same on the two pads. I'll grease the two runners either side on there and there, and I'm going to then reassemble it. But also I was going to recommend to you as well is, what was going to recommend you, I can't remember now. Yeah, just keep it clean, like, you know, just keep everything clean. Put disposable gloves on, but just don't contaminate the disc on there. I say I've got these pads from, I think, CPA, local CPA car parts or factors, and or car parts accessories, and it was £30. So you can get them cheap online. eBay do lots of ones. You can even get the discs, I think, from £45 with the two front discs as well, rented discs. So there's some good bargains to be had, but it's well doable for your home DIY mechanic. I'll just do this now and I'll just show you, and I can wrap it up. But as I say, just give a liberal coat of copper grease on there. As I say, if you do get any on the just going to come around the back, if you do get any on the disc, just make sure you spray it with brake cleaner or carb cleaner, it's basically the same thing, and wipe it off with a tissue. That's on there like so, and don't ram it down because you're going to have to line up. You might have to pull it forward on the slider so it goes over, and on the back as well. As I say, just push that slider in and that'll go down, and that's it. And it's taken all of 10 minutes to do. So I've just got to place this locking bolt back round in the bottom slider on the caliper, then tighten them up. They've got little locking tabs on there, so just be careful that they make sure they seat on the face and it stops it from spinning, because obviously that slider's threaded. So on this one, when I took it off, it did start spinning. I just got to get a pair of pliers, pinch it against the caliper, stopped it spinning, because you don't want to damage this rubber gaiter either, because once that splits, that'll get rust in there, moisture, and then the slider will start binding in there. You get uneven braking and uneven brake wear. So just a pair of pliers on there, grip it to the side, and you can tighten that up and down the bottom, and it should locate itself. So I hope that helps anyone out there. It's a 2008 Toyota avensis diesel, and front brake pad change.